I did the restoration. It was starting about 2011, I think that was right. Um, and when I got the car, it was actually in surprisingly good shape. It was complete with a couple of exceptions. It had the top on it, which was really a find. And the instruments were here, pumps, engine, and all that were here. So that was really good. It had been repainted sometime, I think about the early 50s, and it was repainted this color. So I was pretty sure that was the original color, dark Brewster green, common color at the time for carriages. I don't know what the striping was at the time when I bought it. It had red striping, and I think striping was whatever the owner took a notion to put on the car. So all of the wood on the car, and everything is wood. So this is wood, wood, everything is wood. So all of that had to be stripped off, and it had a lot of cracks in it, a few that were fairly large. And I repaired them though with a good epoxy, a good filled epoxy, and it's held up really very well. So I'm pleased with that. And then once I got all the cracks repaired, got it all smoothed off, and primed and painted, that's the way you see it now. Then I took it to an upholstery shop to have the upholstery done. They did a beautiful job on that. The top was an interesting job. It had this part of it was on, the back was missing. I then found an original top on a car, on a 1902, at a place in England. The town was called Hull, H-U-L-L, Hull, England. It was a museum there. They had one of these, and it was just sitting on their floor. And there was a picture on the internet with it, and it showed the back. It showed the back of it. And that's how I got all of this pattern here, and the straps and the little window and the placement of these buttons around the edge. All of that came from that car in England. So it's really quite an original top. It has side curtains too. That's what these buttons are for. And then it also has a rain apron. A rain apron goes from the front of the vehicle up to about your chest high here, and you just pull that up over you, and you then are protected, sort of. So you fill this up with a hose if you're in a place like our front yard here, or if you're out in the woods, why you carry a folding bucket and you can fill it up with the bucket. Then we also have the toolbox here, and the way you get in the toolbox is this way. You swing the license plate out of the way, and you open this up. This is the toolbox, and it has pretty much everything you need to work on the car when you're out and running around. Many of these things came with the car when I bought it. So I'm sure most of them are original. This is the gas tank wrench to take the cap off the gas tank. The gas tank is under your feet when you're sitting in the car. This is a hubcap wrench. This is a little kind of universal crescent wrench type thing. This is a tire changer tool. These screwdrivers were there when I bought it. This wrench, actually that came out of my father's stuff, but it is exactly the way it's shown. And I can see, I know what was in here because I have a photograph of one of these cars just out of the factory. First step is to make sure your valves are in the right position. So this is the main fuel valve off. This is the gas tank valve. I turn that on. And these valves are for the pilot light here, and they want to be off. So I use a torch to warm up the pilot light, which is right here. And it takes a minute or so to warm up the pilot light. You have to warm it up so that the gasoline vaporizes, it doesn't come out in a liquid. On the side of the boiler here, there's a little hatch. It's very hard to see, but you can open this little hatch and look into the boiler. We'll try to get the camera around there later and see if you can see inside. Okay, so let's see what happens here. Okay, so that warmed the pilot light up, and it's running now.
Okay.
And and this is the adjustment for it. What I have to do is get it so that it covers the main vaporizer inside. The pilot does, and that's what warms it up. So the main vaporizer is for the nozzle, the main nozzle. Now this is the nozzle right here. See it? And the gas will come out there, go into the burner, and then flame up. Okay, that's the nozzle. When I open it, you can see that there's liquid gasoline coming out there. And we want to run the main burner long enough so that that liquid stops and it's all a vapor. If you hear that hooting, that hooting is just a natural resonance of the burner as it's warming up. So you can see now there is still some dripping there, but it's not very much. So we're getting pretty close. Whoops, now. The other thing I have to do is keep my eye on the pressure gauge. And so you can see now we're making steam, and we don't want to let the pressure go too high. So turn on a little more gas. And I'm watching the pressure. Pressure's up to 125 or so. Okay, and the burner is going pretty good. The pilot's going pretty good. So I think maybe we're ready to take a ride. First things you have to do is, first off, pump up the fuel tank. The fuel tank gauge over here should be between 25 and 30, which is right where it is. And usually I fill that up with a compressor, my compressor. It's a lot easier than pumping, but if you're at a car show or something like that, you have to pump. The way you do it is you open this valve and you pump here. It's fairly hard. It takes quite a bit of effort to do that. Then after you've got the gas tank pressurized, you pump this pump a little bit. So you open this valve and pump this pump. This is the water pump, and it is just to fill the boiler. That's the only function of it, is to fill the boiler in the beginning. And I've already done that. You can tell because we made steam a little earlier. And then this is the forward and reverse valve. You go up here for forward, and you go down here for reverse. And the engine, you reverse the engine, actually, it's what you do. And it's just exactly the same as a locomotive. This button is, when the car is running, you can just press on that, and it engages a little air pump onto the engine. and that will keep your air pressure up in here. And you'd have to do that periodically. You can see here we've got about 100 psi, and it's not quite 300 degrees Fahrenheit yet. This is the brake. These up here are the main controls when you're running. This is the throttle, and it just opens a valve, lets the steam go to the engine. This is the main gas valve that turns on the gasoline into the burner, and normally that stays open unless you come to a stop like we are here. In that case, it's closed. And then this is the oiler. This pumps oil into the steam line and lubricates the inside of the engine. So you unscrew it and then you pump it like this. And you have to do that. You do it a few times before you start, which I did there, and then you close the valve. But you have to do that about every 5 minutes when you're running, because there's nothing automatic on it. So we do this to work the water out of the cylinders. So you got to have water every 20 miles or less, really.
Okay.
Yeah. So the light opens with a little latch over here on the side, and it's kerosene light, and you adjust the wick with the little lever, with the little knob on the side. You just stick a match in there and it lights it, and then close it. This is the sales brochure for the car. And if you went into this one, shows, it's this one here, shows the tool compartment in the back with all the tools in there. And the resolution on that is actually good enough that I can copy the tools and I know what's original and what I had to replace. And then this book here is the instructions for the white steam carriage. And it is basically the owner's manual, and it has everything you need to know about the car in here. So general directions for the novice, how to operate it, and then the diagram. So this is a water diagram, shows how all of that works. This is a cutaway of the main water pump, and so on. This has all the information you ever need to know.